In the meantime, let's get more analysis now, legal analysis on today's court proceedings in that Meyiwa murder trial with expert Elton Hart. Mr. Hart, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Just first of all, I think a lot of us have noticed that, witnesses are actually testifying a little bit faster, probably not so much Zandi, but, do we attribute that to a witness being a good witness, or is it about this particular judge?
No, when one looks at the witnesses per se, you first need to check, is the witness adversely affecting the accused cases, or is the witness actually contributing to actually get clarity as to what transpired on that fateful night? Now, in this instance, why Ngashe was so quick on the stand is that he is not really implicating one of the 5 accused. He says he saw somebody jumped in the yard and somebody ran towards the park, but he cannot say it's one of the 5 accused because they base their story on identification of the accused person. So he's not helping the state, but he's not also adversely affecting the accused case. Hence, they did not have a long, lengthy cross-examination. Zandi Khumalo, on the other hand, she was in the house where everything happened, and there is a lot of unanswered questions. And they also wanted to indicate with Zandi Khumalo that there was some sort of tampering that happened on the crime scene. With Ngashe's evidence, it's just like from outside what he observed. They cannot dispute what he saw, but it's also not affecting the accused adversely at this point in time, from what I picked up.
So I guess that's why the advocate representing accused number 4 didn't even cross-examine Ngashe at all, because he probably just didn't see any point. But what do you make of the new witness? It's the first time I'm hearing that there were 3 shots that were fired that night. She'll probably be questioned a little bit more if she starts to point at the accused.
No, indeed. So we'll have to see when she concludes her testimony so that one can see, did she actually implicate one of the 5 accused persons that's in the box? And if she sort of implicates them, then they need to now actually come and sort of demonstrate that her evidence was most probably either adjusted to fit in with what Zandi Khumalo has spoken, because one can already see that these people were close. They had some sort of previous hanging out with each other. And also a lot of information was already out in the public domain. So people can adjust their stories, their evidence, to suit the needs of a particular, either the state or the defense. In this case, it looks like they're adjusting their story so that it aligns. And only under cross-examination, they will now be tested to see if they can still stand and come with the same evidence as they gave in under examination in chief.
What do you make of the judge himself? A lot of people are saying that he's cracking the whip. Some people saying he's fair. For instance, he stands for a witness if a witness is questioned incorrectly, or if a witness is too rude to a defense attorney, he comes in. I remember one particular incident today, Advocate Zandi Mshorolo saying, did you see any of the people in the house helping Senzo, or did they leave him there to die? And the judge took up issue with the words "to die."
Obviously, she or the judge, he looks at it from a perspective to say that he wants to maintain a certain decorum in court so that people respect each other. He says that we are human beings and we need to treat each other. Cracking the whip, for me, it's more about there's time pressures on the judge, and he doesn't want them to waste time on shenanigans and irrelevant information to actually argue about irrelevant things. He wants them to dig deep into what is the real material dispute between the state and the defense, where the state says you are guilty of this offense, and the defense say our client was not on the scene. They don't know. Yes, something bad happened on that night, but it was not committed by one of our clients, and that is where it is. And I see at some stages that he would interject and also somehow help the state a little bit where certain things is not. And for me, I want him to be impartial. Yes, he can say to the rephrase your question. I don't think that's a fair question to the witness, but he should also allow the defense to actually do their work, because with cross-examination, the parameters is not so tight. So he needs to leave them, because obviously you want to test a witness if they actually telling the truth or not, and also to see if they are credible in what they are saying before this court.
Basically, you're challenging, their evidence in chief. But Mr. Hart, in terms of next week, right, we heard the state saying that everybody else who was in the house on that night is only available to testify next week. But we also heard them last week say they had no intentions of calling Kelly Khumalo to the stand. First of all, what do you make of that particular decision, by the state? But secondly, in the same breath, what would the process have to be for the defense to make sure she actually does eventually take the stand?
No, the state can call whoever they think and deem necessary to actually help their case in actually proving their case against the accused. Nobody can tell them you need to use that witness, you don't need to use the other witness. But the defense can ask the court for assistance so that they subpoena Kelly Khumalo to come and testify of the events that occurred on that. She was in the house. And for me, she drove the car to the hospital. She at some stage even applied pressure to the wound of Senzo Meyiwa. So for me, she is one of the witnesses that the state cannot afford not to call. If they don't call it, then it means that there is something untoward about the state's case. Why are they not calling her? And Senzo Meyiwa was at the Khumalo's house because of Kelly Khumalo. So we need to hear from her why Senzo Meyiwa was there, what transpired. Because if she doesn't come, then for me, I would now start looking at, is this really the accused persons that's in the box that committed the crime?
Absolutely. Just lastly, Mr. Hart, I just want to go back to Advocate Zandile Mshololo and that question. What do you think she was trying to get at by asking that witness if he saw any of the people who were in the house putting pressure on his wound or helping him, or did they leave him there to die? What was she trying to prove?
I think what she was trying to show is that, and this speaks to the story of the intruders. She wants to say that there was no intruders, and you guys hurt Senzo Meyiwa on that night, and you left him to actually suffer as a result of that gunshot wound. Nobody tried to help him because there was no intruders. There was no need to help him. Somehow it looks like she's pointing in the direction that the people in the house is all in cahoots as to what happened to Senzo Meyiwa. And I think she's driving towards that narrative to say that there was no urgency on your side to actually call the ambulance, to call the police. Instead, I believe there's a story that they said Mr. Twala was called to come to the scene first before they even tried to actually get the ER services to come. So I think that's the narrative she's trying to actually drive towards with that line of questioning.
All right, Mr. Hart, thank you very much for your time. Always a pleasure, as usual. Elton Hart, a legal expert from the University of Johannesburg.